My name is Ivan Kimmy. I'm 29, and on most days I make order out of chaos for a living. I'm a marketing consultant, which is a fancy way of saying I rearrange other people's messes until they look like plans. I didn't realize until yesterday afternoon that I had been treating my relationship like a client, massaging the optics, managing expectations, ignoring the rot. It started with steam and habit. I stepped out of the shower, towel around my hair, skin humming with heat, already rehearsing the small talk I'd use at dinner with our friends. My phone sat on the nightstand where I'd left it. A notification glowed, innocuous as a nightlight. I didn't expect a bomb to be gentle. The message preview said it was from Daniel, my boyfriend of 2 years, which made no sense because he was in the living room. I tapped the screen, expecting something like, "Do you want the black shoes?" or "We're late again." Instead, I saw the words, "I just texted your mom that you hate her and never want to see her again. You need to cut her off." Time folded. I stood dripping onto the hardwood, the air conditioner prickling my skin into gooseflesh. At first, I thought it was a joke. A cruel one, yes, but maybe the kind you can shake off with a laugh and a "don't be weird." Then I swiped open my thread with Mom, and the joke slit its own throat. There it was, sent from my number 10 minutes earlier. "I can't do this anymore. You've been a destructive force in my life, and I'm done. I hate you. Don't contact me again. I never want to see you again." I felt my heartbeat slam against my ribs like it was trying to break out. My mother and I speak almost every day. After Dad died 5 years ago, a quiet winter morning, coffee half poured, a small, decisive silence. It's just been the two of us learning how to carry an absence. She doesn't deserve that message. No human does. My vision tunneled. The room tilted. For a second, I tasted metal. Then 3 gray dots blinked on the screen. Someone typing from my phone. Another message from Daniel. "She's your past, I'm your future. Time to choose." Something in me went very still, the same way the ocean goes glassy before a storm. My rage didn't vanish. It vacuum sealed itself somewhere under my ribs. I put the phone down like it might burn me and sat at my desk. My laptop woke with a gentle chime, innocent as a lullaby. The messaging app synced with my phone. I saw Daniel's line hanging there, smug, waiting. I typed one word. Understood. I watched the blue bubble slide into the thread and felt, not triumphant, not yet, just awake. The way you feel when the anesthesia wears off after a minor surgery and you realize the ache you'd gotten used to has a name. I picked up my phone and dialed Yunji Kimi, Mom, whose name looked suddenly fragile in my log. She answered on the first ring. I heard the hitched breath before I heard her voice. "Ivan," she said, already crying, "what did I do?" "That wasn't me," I said, and my voice surprised me. It was steady. It was the voice I use with hysterical clients who want to set their storefronts on fire because a comment went viral. Daniel took my phone while I was in the shower. He sent that message. "Listen to me. I love you." I would never say that. Not now, not ever. Silence. Then, like a dam unclenching, relief, a watery laugh that almost broke me. "I knew," she whispered. Something was wrong in the words. "You never say destructive force. That's not your language." I sat there in a towel at my desk, suddenly wanting to fold myself into her kitchen where the floor tiles are warm from the afternoon sun. "I'm so sorry," I said. "I'm so. "Stop, you didn't do this," she said. "But why would he?" "We'll talk later," I said. "Right now I need to know you're okay." "I'm okay," she said, shaken, angry, but okay. I looked at the framed photo on my desk. Mom and me at Dad's favorite beach, both of us squinting. The sky showing off a blue that felt illegal. The idea didn't land. It arrived whole. "Mom," I said, "we haven't taken a real trip since Dad. Just us. No obligation, no maybe next month. Let's go somewhere next week. Think big." "Oh, honey, you don't have to." "I want to," I said. "Pick a place." A small pause. "I've always wanted to see Hawaii," she said, like she was confessing a crush. Done. It took me 4 minutes to pull up the travel site and start moving money toward freedom. 2 first-class seats to Maui. Booked. A 2-bedroom suite in a quiet beachfront resort. Booked. Convertible rental car because life is short and grief is long. Booked. Each confirmation email hit my inbox with the polite thud of a promise kept. While Mom and I planned out loud, food we'd eat, books we'd bring, the road to Hana that Dad always wanted us to drive. My hands worked another small task. I opened the confirmations and forwarded each of them to Daniel's personal email. No subject line, no additional text. The itinerary told its own story. Names: Ivan Kimmy and Yoon-ji Kimmy. Duration: 2 weeks. Purpose: family reunion. I'll come by tomorrow with dinner, I told Mom. We'll celebrate properly. I'll make the soup you like, she said, the one that fixes everything. After we hung up, I took a breath that felt like it belonged to someone with a stronger pair of lungs. I dressed slowly. Jeans, a black blouse, the necklace Dad gave me when I signed the deed to my first apartment, and he said, with quiet pride, "You're hard to move once you decide." I tucked my phone into my pocket like a weapon I didn't intend to use. In the living room, Daniel sat cross-legged on the couch, scrolling his phone with the casual entitlement of a man who thinks the room is his. He looked up when I entered. There was something feline in his smile. Anticipation sharpened into cruelty. He expected a scene, tears, pleas, a messy confession about boundaries and moms. Our dinner reservation is in an hour, I said, reaching for my purse. We should go. Confusion flitted across his face and tried to hide behind charm. Babe, did you see my messages? I saw, I said lightly, and I responded. He blinked. You understood? Your words were very clear, I said, meeting his eyes. I didn't blink. I wanted him to see what his reflection looked like in a woman who had stopped pretending she was small. His phone buzzed on the coffee table. He glanced down, expecting a meme, an update, a like. He opened the first forwarded email. I watched the color leave his face in careful stages, the way dusk tugs at a sky. He tapped the screen harder, as if pressure could change facts. Flight tea, resort, all, rental car. Family reunion, 2 names, neither of them his. His mouth moved, but no sound arrived. We stood in the quiet together, staring at a future he hadn't authorized. He set the phone down like it weighed too much. He started. You're going to Hawaii? With her? With my mother, I said. Yes. You did this because of that message? He laughed then, a brittle sound. You are overreacting. It was a test. You run to her for everything. I wanted to show you how unhealthy that is. By impersonating me and telling my mother I hate her? I asked. That's not a test, Daniel. That's a confession. I could see the calculations in his eyes, the same way I watch clients try to reverse engineer their blunders into strategy. He reached for me then. Tone, soften, the familiar pivot. I'm trying to protect us, he said. She keeps you from committing. We need a clear boundary. There's a boundary now, I said. You drew it. He stood a little too close. You can't keep choosing her over me. You told me to choose, I said. I slid the strap of my purse over my shoulder. So I did. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't ask why a man who supposedly loved me also wanted to shrink the largest love I have left. I only noticed details, the way his jaw ticked, how his hand hovered, a flicker of something mean skittering under the surface. I made a note in the quiet places of my brain. He is dangerous when thwarted. Not physically, not yet, but with reputation, with lies, with the petty cruelty of a person who believes attention is oxygen. Get dressed, I said. We're going to be late. At dinner, I was exquisite at pretending. I told a story about a client who wanted to rename a bakery Bread Pit. Our friends laughed. I laughed. Daniel didn't eat much. He kept checking his phone under the table, waiting for me to detonate to the evening, to hurl accusations that would give him the scene he needed to play the victim later. I gave him nothing but air. Inside my chest, a quieter thing unfurled, not revenge, not yet, direction. When we got home, he closed the door harder than necessary. His voice arrived with it. So that's it? He asked. You're just going to act like you didn't. I acted, I said. You expected a performance. I gave you a decision. His phone buzzed again on the counter, the hotel's welcome letter. He stared at it like it had insulted his lineage. Daniel, I said, almost kindly, because kindness is a blade when you use it right. You told me my mother is the past and you are the future. You told me to choose. I stepped closer so he could see himself reflected in my pupils. I let the sentence take its time. I chose. His mouth opened, closed. I watched a dozen arguments die on his tongue like moths in a jar. Somewhere down the hall, a neighbor laughed at something on TV. The ordinary sounds of our building went on, pretending the earth hadn't shifted under our feet. He finally found a word. Why? Because you took my voice and tried to wear it. Because grief taught me what matters, and you tried to tax it. Because the only people who demand to be chosen over love are the ones who don't understand it. I didn't say any of that. I picked up my keys from the dish by the door. Our reservation was lovely, I said. Thank you for being on time. He stared at me for a heartbeat that felt like a held breath before a plunge. The confirmations on his screen glowed like small, polite detonations. When I woke the next morning, the light in the apartment felt different, thin, wary, like even the sun didn't trust this place anymore. Daniel was already up, humming in the kitchen, making pancakes as if nothing had happened. The smell was almost insulting. He was good at that, erasing tension with routine. It was his favorite manipulation tactic. If you pretend the world isn't on fire, people start to question whether they smell smoke at all. I leaned against the doorway, watching him flip a pancake with that casual, half smile he used when he thought he was charming. Morning, he said brightly. You slept late. I had a lot on my mind, I replied evenly. He glanced over his shoulder, eyes flicking to my phone on the counter. I'd moved it there deliberately, unlocked, face down. A test. His tone softened. About yesterday? Yes, I said. About yesterday. He set a plate in front of me, still warm. I went too far, he said, with the kind of apology that had quotation marks around it. I needed you to understand how unhealthy it is to let your mother control you. My mother. Always her. Always the easy scapegoat. Daniel, I said quietly. She doesn't control me. She cares about me. There's a difference. He sighed theatrically. You're blind to it. Every decision we make, she's in your head. She doesn't want you to grow up. I studied him carefully, the way I'd study a client trying to sell me a brand built on dishonesty. He really believed this, or he needed to. She's my mother, I said, pushing the pancake aside. You crossed a line, and you know it. His expression flickered, first surprise, then irritation. He covered it with a tight laugh. I said I was sorry. You're still mad? After all we've been through? It was the kind of guilt trap that had worked before. Not this time. Mad implies I expect you to change, I said calmly. I don't. He looked at me then, searching for the familiar softness he could twist. But all he found was distance. That night we had dinner plans with friends. I almost canceled, but then I realized it was the perfect stage. Daniel wanted control, wanted to predict my every move, so I decided to ruin his script. The restaurant was one of those dimly lit places with candles that made everyone look better than they felt. Our friends were already seated when we arrived. Daniel held my hand in front of them, probably to prove something. I let him. The conversation flowed around us. Work gossip, vacation and plans, who was getting promoted. I smiled when appropriate, laughed in the right places. To anyone watching, we looked perfectly in sync. Daniel, however, was unraveling. He kept checking his phone under the table, his fingers fidgeting, his leg bouncing. I knew exactly what he was waiting for, a confrontation. A public meltdown that would let him flip the story later. She's unhinged. She embarrassed me in front of everyone. I didn't give him that satisfaction. Instead, I leaned toward our friends and said with a bright smile, My mom and I are taking a trip next week. Hawaii. The table lit up with excitement. Wow, that's amazing, one of them said. Just you two? Just us, I said. We haven't traveled together in years. Daniel froze. The muscle in his jaw twitched, but he forced a laugh. Spontaneous, huh? When did this come up? I met his gaze across the candlelight. Last night. The flicker in his eyes wasn't anger. It was panic. Because I'd made a choice without consulting him. Because control, to him, was love, and I had just taken it back. Our friends went on chatting, oblivious to the tiny war unfolding between us. I sipped my wine, serene. Daniel said little after that. He just sat there, smiling too wide, nodding at the wrong moments. When we left, the mask slipped the second we reached the car. You're going to Hawaii? He hissed as he started the engine. I told you, yes. With her? With my mother, I said. You should try using her name. He gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles blanched. You're punishing me. No, I said softly. I'm prioritizing me. The drive home was silent, filled only by the soft, angry sound of his breathing. When we stepped inside the apartment, Daniel spun to face me. Did you not see my messages? He demanded, his voice breaking that polite facade at last. I saw them, I said. And that's it? You have nothing to say? I understood the message, I replied, meeting his eyes. You made your position clear. So did I. He blinked, confused. What does that mean? His phone buzzed on the counter again. He glanced at it, and all the blood drained from his face. The forwarded emails, flight confirmations, hotel bookings, the words family reunion, Maui. Hawaii? He whispered. You're going to Hawaii with her? It's a family trip, I said calmly. You told me to cut my mother off. I decided to do the opposite. Something in him snapped. You're unbelievable. After everything I've done for you, I laughed quietly. You mean after the lies? The manipulation? The stolen messages? His voice rose. I was trying to help you grow up. She treats you like a child. You tried to help me by impersonating me, I said. By making my mother cry herself sick? You don't get to call that love. Daniel's eyes shone wet with anger. You're making a mistake, Ivan. Without me, you'll fall apart. I'm the only one who's ever really... I cut him off with a tilt of my head. The only one who's ever what? Controlled me? He went still. Pack your things, I said quietly. I want you out by Sunday. His jaw dropped. You can't just kick me out. I live here. No, I said. You stay here. There's a difference. His face twisted. I have rights. Not according to the mortgage you don't, I replied, and not according to the lease or the bills you never paid. The words seemed to slice him open. His pride was bleeding faster than his reason. You'll regret this, he spat. I can make people think whatever I want about you. I looked at him with that same eerie calm that had carried me through every betrayal before this one. Then do whatever you feel you have to do. I walked past him into the bedroom and closed the door. The lock clicked softly, like punctuation. Outside, I heard drawers slamming, a mug shattering. He shouted something I couldn't make out, but the words didn't matter anymore. The tone did. Desperation, not dominance. For the first time in months, I lay down and didn't check if he followed. I stared at the ceiling and let the quiet stretch out like a road. In the silence, my father's old words came back to me. You don't win every fight by raising your voice, kiddo. Sometimes you win by closing the door first. The next morning, the apartment was still. Daniel had gone to work. The couch cushions were dented, a mug missing, a hairline crack on the wall where something must have hit. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and saw the last forwarded confirmation email still sitting in my sent folder. Maui, 2 weeks, first class. I clicked it open and smiled. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I finally understood the difference between running away and moving on. This wasn't escape, it was recovery. The apartment was too quiet. That was the first thing I noticed when I came home from work that evening. The kind of quiet that hums, that makes you aware of every click and creak in the walls. Daniel's things were gone, most of them, at least. The closet doors gaped open like missing teeth, drawers half empty, a few hangers swinging lazily. But something else was missing, too. My work laptop. I stood still in the doorway, pulse pounding. I scanned the desk. Cables, mouse, notes, everything except the laptop. Then I saw the note. A single sheet of paper folded neatly and placed in the center of the dining table like a dinner invitation. You owe me $5,000 for emotional distress, and another $5,000 for the design upgrades I made to your apartment. You gave me the laptop, and if you report it stolen, I'll tell everyone you're unstable and abusive. You'll regret this, Ivan. Trust me. I read it twice. My hands didn't shake. I took a photo of it on my phone, folded it, and slid it into a folder labeled Proof. Then I poured myself a glass of water and dialed my mother. She answered with that bright tone she uses to hide worry. Hi, sweetheart. How was work? Productive, I said dryly. Daniel's gone. Good, she said without hesitation. Did he take anything? Just his pride and my laptop. Silence, then a sigh. Oh, Ivan. I already filed a report, I said, and changed the locks. She chuckled softly, like she couldn't decide whether to be proud or sad. You always think 3 moves ahead. Learned from the best. For the rest of the night, I walked the apartment like it was a museum of lessons. Every object had a new story now. The plant I'd kept alive while he forgot to water it. The mug he'd chipped during one of his tantrums. The dent on the wall behind the couch. Proof that love, when misused, leaves fingerprints. 2 days later, the war went public. It started with a text from an old friend. Hey, are you okay? I frowned, opened Instagram, and there it was. Daniel's post. A moody black and white photo of him staring out a rainy window, captioned, "Healing from the kind of control no one should ever experience. Protect your peace." The comments were full of sympathy. You deserve better, bro. Toxic people hide behind nice smiles. Proud of you for speaking up. I scrolled through them once, then closed the app. But before I could even put my phone down, another notification buzzed in. Jessica Lane, Daniel's ex-girlfriend, had tagged me in her Instagram story. Her caption read, "Some women just can't handle losing control. Sad to watch them ruin good men." It was almost funny, the irony of her defending him after everything she'd said about him years ago. How he drained her, how he lied. I guess for some people, loyalty wasn't about truth. It was about leverage. I took screenshots, dozens of them. Every lie, every implication, every petty attempt to rewrite reality. Then, instead of engaging, I called Mark Wu, a company lawyer I'd worked with before, practical, unflappable, allergic to drama. He called back within the hour. "Ivan, what's up?" "I need your professional help. It's about my ex." He laughed. That's usually how these calls start. I explained everything. The phone incident, the impersonation, the theft, the social media smear. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, there was a pause. "Classic narcissistic retaliation," he said finally. "I'll draft a cease and desist, and we'll file a counterclaim for the stolen laptop. Want to scare him a little?" "Yes," I said, "but make it elegant." He chuckled. "I like elegant." That night, I sat in my living room with a cup of chamomile tea and the soft hum of the security camera I'd just installed. My inbox pinged. Mark's draft letter. It was perfect. A calm, professional takedown outlining that Daniel was never on the lease, had contributed nothing financially, and had committed both theft and defamation. The closing paragraph was poetry in legal form. Cease all false statements and return the stolen property within 5 business days, or formal proceedings will follow. We sent it to Daniel's lawyer, an email address that looked suspiciously like something he'd made himself. Gmail, not a firm domain. Predictable. The next morning, a text arrived. "You really think a letter's going to scare me? You're pathetic, Ivan. Everyone knows what kind of person you are." I didn't respond. Instead, I texted my mother. "Flight's confirmed for Tuesday. You ready?" She replied immediately. "I've already packed sunscreen and guilt snacks. Let's go heal, baby." I smiled for the first time in days. But Daniel wasn't done. That weekend, a mutual friend named Claire sent me a message. "He's telling people you locked him out with no notice, that you screamed at him for hours, that your mom poisoned you against him. I'm sorry, Ivan. He's spinning a story." I thanked her. Then, calmly, I began uploading all my evidence to a secure folder. The note, the screenshots, the lawyer's letter, the police report. I didn't want revenge. I wanted a record. The truth deserves an archive. By Sunday, the police had officially logged the laptop theft, and Daniel's new attorney email stopped replying. Mark called that afternoon, laughing. "Ivan, I think you got the message." "Already?" I asked. "Oh yeah," he said. "That lawyer of his sent me a one-line response. We're not pursuing further action. No signature, no firm name, just that. The bluff's dead." I let out a long breath I hadn't realized I was holding. "Thank you, Mark." He chuckled. "Don't thank me yet. Just promise you'll enjoy Maui." That night, I stood on the balcony with the city lights reflecting off the glass. The air was cool, the kind that smells like rain even when it doesn't fall. I looked down at my reflection in the window. Tired, yes, but lighter somehow. It hit me that Daniel's greatest weapon had never been cruelty. It was confusion, the constant fog of manipulation that made me doubt my instincts. Now the fog was gone, and in its place, a kind of dangerous clarity. As I packed for Hawaii, I slipped my father's old watch into my carry-on, the one that had stopped ticking the day he died. I didn't need it to tell time anymore. I just needed it to remind me that grief doesn't break you. It teaches you precision. On the flight confirmation, my name sat beside my mother's in clean, black font. Ivan Kimi, Yoon Ji Kimi. Departure, Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. It looked like freedom printed on paper. Before bed, I got one last text from an unknown number. "You'll regret this trip." No name, no context, just venom in 12 pixels. I blocked it without hesitation. I wasn't scared anymore. When I turned off the lights, the apartment finally felt like mine again. Not haunted, not angry, just quiet in a way that promised peace. And somewhere across the city, I knew Daniel was realizing something he'd never admit out loud. That he'd tried to break a woman who didn't even raise her voice to destroy him. She just let him talk until he revealed everything. When the plane's wheels lifted off the runway, I felt something inside me lift with it. A weight I'd been carrying so long, I didn't even notice its shape anymore. Beside me, my mother reached over, her hand warm on mine. "You okay, sweetheart?" I smiled. "Better than okay." The clouds swallowed the city beneath us. I didn't look down. I didn't need to. Some things deserve to stay small in the distance. Maui. The air there was heavy with salt and sunlight. Palm trees leaned in like old friends, whispering secrets. My mother inhaled deeply the moment we stepped off the plane. "Smells like healing," she said. The first few days were quiet. We swam, we slept, we let the ocean reset our pulse. I kept my phone on silent, except for her messages. Photos of hibiscus flowers, updates from room service about our dinner reservations. No work, no drama, no Daniel. By the fourth evening, I almost forgot the feeling of being watched. Almost. The first sign came as a vibration on the nightstand, a phone buzzing endlessly. I ignored it at first, assuming it was a random spam call. But when I finally glanced at the screen, I saw the preview. "How dare you post that picture? You're disgusting." Then another. "You think you're better than me? Laughing on the beach while you destroy my life?" And then dozens more, flooding in one after another, like a broken faucet that wouldn't stop dripping poison. I scrolled through the senders. Some numbers I recognized, some I didn't. Some were Daniel's, others were his friends, and a few were clearly from Jessica Lane. She'd started a small digital war on social media, tagging me in subtweets and cryptic stories. Crazy always looks calm right before it cracks. Never trust someone who needs their mom to fight their battles. The irony was almost beautiful. I showed a few messages to my mother over breakfast the next morning. She stirred her coffee, looked out at the ocean, and said simply, "Some people choke on their own bitterness, sweetheart. Don't offer them water." I smiled. "That's poetic," she shrugged. "It's practical." I blocked the numbers one by one until my inbox was clean. Then I posted another photo, me and my mom standing on the edge of a cliff overlooking the ocean, the sky burning orange and pink. The caption read, "Healing isn't hiding, it's choosing joy anyway." No tags, no names, no anger, just light. That was the one that broke him. The messages changed tone overnight, from fury to desperation, from "you'll regret this" to "please, let's talk." The next morning, "I made a mistake. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was scared. Please call me." Then 5 minutes later, "Forget it. You're heartless. You've always been heartless." It was almost fascinating, watching the shift from arrogance to pleading to rage, all within a few hours. A narcissist in freefall. I didn't respond to any of it. My silence wasn't revenge, it was closure. By the end of the first week, the island began to feel like a second skin. My mother had started sketching again, something she hadn't done since before Dad died. She drew the beach, the horizon, even a tiny version of me lying under an umbrella reading a book. "You used to do this all the time," I said softly, watching her pencil dance across the page. She smiled, eyes still on the sketch. I stopped because every line felt like a reminder of what I'd lost. "And now?" "Now," she said. "It feels like a reminder of what I still have." I didn't cry, but something inside me softened, the way dry earth softens under rain. That night, I opened Instagram for the first time in days. The first thing I saw wasn't Daniel's account. It was Jessica's. She'd deleted her stories. Her bio now read, "Learning to stay out of other people's storms." Apparently, Daniel's meltdown had finally reached his allies. Mutual friends had started unfollowing him. Word spread quickly in our circle. He'd admitted in a drunken rant that he'd sent the message to my mother, trying to test my loyalty. The story he built to destroy me was collapsing under its own weight. On our last day in Maui, we went snorkeling near a coral reef. The water was impossibly clear, the colors unreal, turquoise and gold bleeding together. When I surfaced, my mother was laughing, shaking seawater from her hair. I realized then that laughter was the sound of survival. Later that evening, we stood on the balcony watching the sun melt into the horizon. The sky bled crimson, and the sea caught every drop of it. My mother leaned her head on my shoulder. "I haven't seen you this peaceful in years," she said. "Because I finally stopped apologizing for my boundaries," I replied. She chuckled. "Your father would be proud." He always said you'd inherit his quiet ruthlessness. I laughed. Quiet ruthlessness. I like that. When I went to bed that night, I scrolled through my photos. Not the ones I'd posted, but the hundreds I'd taken privately. My mother laughing mid-sentence, the empty lounge chairs by the water, my own reflection in a window, sunburned but smiling. For the first time in years, I felt present in my own life. I woke the next morning to another flood of messages, but this time from mutual friends. He's losing it, Ivan. He's been ranting nonstop about how you're flaunting your happiness. He says you're trying to humiliate him. The last message came from Claire. He's spiraling. You won. Don't engage. I didn't feel like I had won. It wasn't a victory, it was a release. The kind where you stop carrying something that was never meant to be yours. I turned my phone off and joined my mother for breakfast by the beach. That evening, we watched our last sunset on the island. The colors were softer this time, gold instead of fire. My mother raised her glass of wine and said, "To letting go." I clinked mine against hers, to never mistaking control for love again. The horizon swallowed the sun whole, and just like that, the past set with it. When I got back to the hotel room, a final message was waiting in my inbox. No threats this time, no insults, just a single sentence from Daniel. "You look happy. I hate that." I didn't reply. I didn't even block him. I just deleted the message and whispered into the quiet, "Good." When our flight landed back home, the world felt smaller, quieter, but sharper, as if someone had turned the contrast up on reality. I was ready for peace, ready for silence. The first thing I saw when I opened my apartment door was a cardboard box on the floor, sealed with too much tape and no return label. I didn't have to guess who it was from. Inside was my stolen laptop, and on top of it, a single sheet of paper, folded once with that same controlling precision Daniel always had. The note read, "I shouldn't have taken it. I just wanted to keep a piece of you, something to remember you by. I know I went too far. I was jealous and scared and stupid. Please don't hate me. I'm not the monster you think I am. I just didn't know how to love you right. D." There were faint tear stains on the paper. I stared at them for a long time, not out of sympathy, but because I couldn't decide whether they were real or staged. With Daniel, everything had been performance. I folded the note and dropped it into the trash. Then I opened the laptop. It was clean, factory reset, no files, no traces, just an empty screen, like him. A few days later, Mark, my lawyer, called. "You'll like this," he said, amusement in his voice. "We got another letter from Daniel's legal representative. A different one this time, a real firm. It's an amicable settlement offer. Basically, he'll drop all financial claims if you agree not to press charges for theft or defamation." I leaned back in my chair. "He's retreating." "Completely," Mark said. "It's over, Ivan. You won." I smiled faintly. "It's not about winning. It's about never having to play again." He chuckled. "That's the right mindset. I'll draft the closure agreement with a no-contact clause." "Make sure it includes my mother," I said. "I want her protected too." "Already on it." That weekend, I invited my mother over for dinner. She brought groceries even though I told her not to. Old habits. As she chopped vegetables, she hummed a Korean lullaby she used to sing when I was little. The melody filled the kitchen, warm and familiar. "Feels good to be back," she said softly. "Feels safe." "It does," I agreed. "The apartment feels different now." She smiled knowingly. "Because you took the poison out of it." We ate on the balcony. Kimchi stew, rice, grilled fish. The city glittered below us, a map of lights that no longer held ghosts. At one point, my mother reached across the table and said, "You know, your father would have loved seeing this, you choosing yourself." "I think he's seen enough from wherever he is," I said, probably shaking his head at how long it took me to listen to his advice. She laughed, her eyes shining. "He always said you'd learn the hard way." "I did," I said, "but I learned." The next morning, my phone buzzed with a new message, this time from Claire, the friend who'd warned me before. "You need to see this." Attached were screenshots from a group chat Daniel was still in with their mutual circle. In the messages, he confessed everything. How he'd sent the fake text to my mother as a loyalty test. How he thought isolating me would make me easier to manage. How it all blew up when I refused to react the way he'd planned. There was even a voice note, his slurred, angry voice saying, "She wasn't supposed to win. She was supposed to need me." The messages ended with Jessica replying, "You really are sick, Daniel. Don't ever contact me again." Then Claire's comment, "He's lost every friend he had. Everyone knows now." I read it all in silence, then typed back, "Thanks, Claire." But I don't need proof anymore. He already erased himself. Over the next few weeks, life started finding rhythm again. Morning coffee, gym, work calls, evening walks. I noticed how quiet peace can be. Not empty, but gentle. One afternoon, a courier arrived with the final signed documents from Mark. Mutual non-contact agreement. Case closed. The signature at the bottom read, Daniel Hayes. It looked shaky. I signed mine, mailed it back, and felt something invisible unhook from my chest. 2 months later, a mutual acquaintance told me Daniel had left the city. He'd moved back in with his parents. He couldn't afford the rent anymore, and no one in his circle wanted to deal with his drama. Even Jessica had blocked him. For the first time, I didn't feel anger. Just a strange, hollow pity. He had tried to build his identity out of control, and when that collapsed, there was nothing left. I didn't celebrate his downfall. I didn't post about it. I just lived. One evening, my mother came over again. I cooked her favorite meal, beef stew, a bottle of red wine open on the counter. As we ate, she smiled at me the way only mothers can, with quiet pride wrapped in relief. This version of you, she said. It's the one I always knew was underneath. I smiled. Took me a while to find her. She raised her glass. To freedom that doesn't need revenge. We clinked glasses. I poured her another drink. The air smelled like simmering broth and fresh beginnings. After she left, I stood by the window, watching the city pulse with its usual chaos. I thought of Daniel, not with hatred, not even regret, just as a closed chapter. He had wanted to rewrite my life to fit his story, but I had chosen to write my own. The quiet felt sacred. I turned off the lights, let the hum of the refrigerator fill the room, and whispered to no one in particular. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, it's peace. And in that moment, surrounded by nothing but stillness and warmth, I realized something profound. I hadn't just survived Daniel. I had outgrown him.